Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Gulfstream today. Ron Nicoletti, along with Ashley Mayu. And you can see our three different racing surfaces this afternoon. And they looks like they're working on the main track. And we'll see how things play out today.
Yeah, we'll see. I know it rained a bit last night, but we keep on talking about the Tavita. That's one of the pluses. You can see it obviously dried out here as well. It's been a pretty nice day so far. We were talking about it earlier. A bit of a breeze, too, a little bit of a cool front. So the humidity seems to, at least for now, have died down.
Yeah, it died down, and as you said, this main track, besides the Topeka, dries out so quickly, so we'll be dealing with that fast main track. A little later on, we got a $200,000 jackpot guarantee pool in the Rainbow Six, and of course, each and every Friday, the Stronach 5 will kick off. I think the first two races in the sequence are from our sister track at Laurel.
Yeah, Laurel, the fields there have been really great recently. Some big prices there as well, so good to see kind of all the tracks in the fold once again. And we know a couple weeks ago we had that massive carryover. The pool really growed, so it's always nice to see that as well.
Well, with that said, all the early work taken care of. We're going to start today on the Topeka at about 1 mile 70 yards. Maiden claiming 2-year-olds, 25,000. Scratch the number 4 horse in here, and as they put together an early pick 5 ticket, and boy, what a heartbreaker with your late pick 5 yesterday.
Yeah, the late pick 4 was a heartbreaker.
Pick 4,
I went
man.
light and got the losing end of the head bob in the nightcap, but looking at the early pick 5 today, I go 3 deep in the opener. I actually used the 2 first-time starters out of the Saffie Joseph Jr. barn, the 3 and the 6, as well as the 8 Poetic Code, which I think has an edge of race day experience in this field. Race 2 deep in here. Saffie Joseph Jr.'s horse, the number 2, coming out of from a different trainer's barn, 4 to 5 morning line. I had to use the 2, as well as the 3 strike card coming out of that grade 3 Iroquois at Churchill Downs. Race 3, 2 deep once again. I think the number 5, Always Gambling, was pretty impressive on debut, kind of looking at the trip that he got. I'll also throw in the 3 Jinxed, 1 of 2 out of the Mark Cassie barn. Race 4, here's my single. Been doing this a lot. I've been singling Saffie almost every time. I feel like I go with the number 4, Silver Spur. Second time out, first time in the barn since leaving the Brad Cox barn. Then because of that single, I went kind of all over the place in race 5 on the Topeka. I'll use the 1, the 7, the 8, and the 9. I actually found it pretty tough to kind of distinguish between a couple runners in there. So just a $24 play here in the early pick 5.
Yeah, that 4-horse Silver Spur is, I believe, a $270,000 son of Anchor Down, so nicely bred in that. Getting back to the first race this afternoon, as we mentioned at the top, it's about 1 mile and 70 yards on the Topeka. Maiden claiming 2-year-olds, $25,000. I'm going to start it off with the 8 because I want to show you this horse's last race, and we're going to just show you a couple of different angles here at the start. First, we're going to show you the start of the race of Poetic Code, which also that 8 that day, and just comes over and just slides in, sort of compromised. Now watch going into the first turn here. I don't really know what was happened, but this horse has to check once and then has to check twice. I don't know why it was checking, because nobody really in front of it. Just looks like he was trying to slow him down. And, from that, it's so hard to recover from first to start, then that, and just wanted to show this at the end, finishing an okay second. So all that trouble early on. And Antonio Sano, he's pretty good. He's about 22% with his Topeka runners. He's got Miguel Vasquez in the saddle. So lots of early trouble with the number 8 Poetic Code.
Yeah, to me, the most interesting part was actually not even just the break, was that first turn entering it, because he was all over the place. He kind of looked like the 7 at one point might have caused him to even float up even higher up on the track, and he was already kind of blowing the turn there. So I think with a better trip, it should suit him well. Obviously, he certainly stepped up last time out. It was on the stretch out. It was trying the Topeka, resulting in his best performance so far.
I mean, we got our exacta flip-flop because born a gambler. If if you're not, you didn't like the trip we just showed. You're born a gambler's debuting at this distance on the Topeka for Saffie Joseph Jr. He's 5 for 19 with his freshman runners at the meeting. Hasn't had many winners on the Topeka, but his 2-year-olds have been running great.
They have been running well, and we typically say they do need a start. This is obviously one of 2 first-time starters for him, both owned and bred by Ken and Sarah Ramsey. I thought the workout tab was slightly better than the other runner in here. I really like the works 2 and 3 back. Even most recent work on October 23rd at Palm Meadows, they were good. You obviously first-time starters, only 11%. I did like that this one was debuting at the maiden claiming rank as well.
Yeah, and you had the number 3 and 3rd, and that is between the covers. This one from MSL Hermia, another one from Saffie.
It's another Saffie. Amisael, not necessarily his go-to rider. Edgard rides a little bit more for him, but surprisingly, still 77 mounts the past year, 23% together. It's really hard to distinguish with these firsters. This one still has some solid drills. Instead of going 5 ace like the stablemate, only went 4 furlongs last time out, 48 and 1 over the wet fast. I feel like if I use one, I have to use the other in the exotic, so that's what I did here.
And we both had some interest in the number 2 Boss Hog, them Dukes, who's stretching out around 2 turns. Rallied to finish second in its debut, going 5 on the Tapeta. The question, of course, can this horse get the distance? That's basically it.
It'll be interesting in terms of run style. Was really rallying late in that race, and I think the key thing to maybe note is that first race at Colonial was scheduled for the grass, moved to the main track. Clearly, he did not perform very well at the maiden special weight on the main track. They got him to the Tapeta, and we did see certainly a wake-up call. He also ran without Lasix.
Well, let's go to race number 2 this afternoon. It's a mile allowance optional claimer for 2-year-olds. The optional claiming price is $75,000. Pretty nice race. And you alluded to the number 2 White Barry, who's stepping up to face winners. Let's go back. I'm going to pick this horses. Just going to pick him up at the top of the stretch. And you're going to see him. He splits horses, which I like when you're a debut runner, and just finds that other gear. And it looks like this is Saffie Joseph Jr. again. If you look through the card today, it looks like that barn has a chance to win about 5 races this afternoon. And this was just so impressive through the stretch.
Especially when you kind of look at this 2-year-olds going 6.5 furlongs, 45 almost to the half. I mean, pretty good time there. Three-quarters of the distance, 1:10. I thought the time was pretty good there overall, and this horse just keeps on pouring it on late. Didn't take any respect, though, and part of that might have been the connections. They were 9% kind of on the year going into that. So pretty nice performance. 81 Beyer speed figure now in the barn of Saffie, and you can see the work since joining the barn, 3 of them in total. A bullet drill, 2 back, 46 and 2, the fastest of 50 workers at the distance.
Yeah, you would think that if that performance, somebody might have bought this horse and
Yep.
turned it over to Saffie's barn, but that's just guessing work on my part, but it looks that way at least. The number 3 Strike Hard is back locally after following his maiden special weight victory here at the distance. Sort of ran okay, an even performance in the Grade 3 Iroquois, going a mile and a 16th on the Churchill main track. Actually went back and looked this race. It was just okay performance, nothing to really show.
It was an okay performance, you know, obviously stepping into deeper waters and also shipping out last time to race in that Grade 3 stakes race. So I thought the big thing to kind of note with this horse on debut, kind of was green in there, slow to start, back of the pack in a field of 11, made up some ground that was going 7A, stretched out to the mile, and really was a pretty nice winner 2 starts back. I think that's the race to key in on, getting back here to Gulfstream. I think this one could be probably, and we both agree, this is the major threat to White Barrio.
Yeah, and the other horse that we both used on the ticket, only a 5-horse field, is Vancouver Dior, who's stepping up to face winners. This one just rocketed clear to defeat those 25 maiden. That was a slop race. Won the race by like 16 lengths or something like that in that race. And he's going to certainly be tested for class with Chantal handling the inside post. You know, just a horse that you never know when these horses, they, you know, run well. Maybe they have another one left like that in the tank, but I think they're all going to have their running shoes on to beat the number 2 White Barrio. Going to race number 3, we're going to go about 5 furlongs on the Tapeta, maiden special weight, 2-year-olds. And once again, a pretty nice race this afternoon with 7 in the field. And you went with, let's start with your horse, the number 5, Always Gambling, who wheels back today, got that so important race over the surface to build on.
Yeah, that is huge. That was going 5.5 furlongs. I know this race today is just about 5 furlongs on the Tapeta, but this horse was dead last early on and really closed with some late interest there to finish 4th, beaten by 2.5. Was 14-1 in that race. Hector Barrios in the irons on that occasion, back in the saddle today. But the thing that I wanted to key in on, when you look at this race, I mean, a lot of first-time starters, the majority of the field, and I think having that race day edge could benefit this colt. And looking at the connections, when looking in the formulator and trying to find a stat here, pulled one for Juan Ciavilla and kind of looking at his runners, how they do, especially maidens, second-time starters the past 2 years. 9 for 43, 21% in terms of wins, 47% in the money with a $3.20 ROI. To me, that's a pretty strong number. Gave me a little extra confidence in this horse, so I think this one can certainly step up. And you know me, Beyer speed figures. That's a pretty nice debut of a 70 on the Tapeta.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, good that the horse had a chance to run over the Tapeta. The first-time starters in here, the horse you have in second, I have on top, is the 3 Jinx. The Irish bred is the son of Caravaggio by Scat Daddy, debuting from Marquez. He was 5 for 15, 33% on the Tapeta going into yesterday. The colt working well at Palm Meadows. Edwin Gonzalez in the saddle today. Just going with the hot hands. A couple of trainers have been doing exceptionally well on the Tapeta. And Mark, this is his game up in Canada.
This is certainly his game, and we've seen that so far this since the Tapeta has launched here at Gulfstream Park. And you mentioned the connections and the pedigree. The pedigree is certainly adds a level of intrigue to this runner, but also the connections. You mentioned Edwin Gonzalez and Mark Casse. I didn't realize it was that high. They're almost 40% here at Gulfstream Park together from a sample size of 36. That's a huge number. I know he's got 2 in here. He can maybe make a case for the other one, $170,000 purchase, but to me, the pedigree and the connections, that points to the 3.
Yeah, another first-time starter is the number 2, Cantharana. I think it is $110,000 Kentucky-bred son of Cantharos. Of course, Cantharos shifted to Kentucky. For Safi, as I mentioned before, he's 3 for 22. That was going into this day when I did the analysis, 14% with his runners on the new Tapeta surface. I'm not reading much into that. Miguel Vasquez, the barn, like I said in the last race, his 2-year-olds have been running very well.
They have, and I think he had a multiple-win day yesterday,
Right.
Safi Joseph Jr., with several winners on the card. Miguel Vasquez, kind of being in the saddle today, interesting. They don't team up too much here, 10% at Gulfstream Park. It's tough to handicap this race. When you looked at some of the pedigrees, there wasn't a lot to go by in terms of the siblings and how they've been performing. But if you're going through connections, again, you can't leave Safi off.
No. I told you can win 5 today if just handicap was. Take a short break. We'll come back for race number 4. $200,000 is the jackpot guarantee pool in the Rainbow Six.
And they're off. Second in the 2-path. Ground bumper inside. Race. A quarter of a mile to go, and he's 6 yards out. Last of the 12 as they roll into the backstretch.
Welcome back to Gulfstream today. Ron Nicoletti along with Ashley Mayu. It is the 4th race, and being a 9-race card is where the Rainbow Six will start. And it's a 6-furlong maiden special weight race with 3-year-olds and upward. One change only, and it's just an equipment change, the ultimate equipment change. The one horse is now a gelding. Let's take a look at my $48.60 ticket today. It took copied like you. I'm going to have a single like you had in the early pick 5. Lots of coverage here in race number 4 with Silver Spur, Safi Joseph Jr. We'll talk about that race in a moment. 3 deep in race number 5 with Emma Crack, the Gladiator, the Chilean breds, dueling Chilean breds in there. You don't see that much, and just like Mike. In race number 6, Raison de Glace, La Rusia, and Truly on my ticket. Let's get to race number 7. I'm going with David's Rose for Eddie Plesa Jr. This one ran against, grade 2 stakes place Diamond Wow in the rained out Our Dear Peggy. I think this is a good spot for this horse. So I'm going to single there, and you see the rest of the coverage as I go out. And I thought in the last race, the 12 horse was interesting. And note that 9th race today is the leg D of the Stronach 5 today.
I think we agree here and there. Interesting single in race 7. I'm not sure that's the horse that I used on top, but I definitely used that horse somewhere. I think David's Rose does have a big shot. And, kind of looking at the sequence, I think you insert some prices here, too, here and there that should hopefully, result in a better payout.
Yeah, that's what I was trying. But, if you get that single, you get that nice coverage. But you got to get the single to win. A lot of times I get the single to win and nobody else wins in the other races. So with that said, as I mentioned, the 4th race, 6 furlongs maiden special weight, 3-year-olds and up. Oh, guess who's on top here again? Safi Joseph Jr. This one now in his barn. This is a $270,000 son of Anchor Down, debuting locally. Makes his first start since finishing 4th against maiden special weight company going 6 at Churchill, but it was back in May.
It was back in May. We haven't seen this horse in over 5 months. Returned to the races, you mentioned, now in the barn of Safi, off of the Brad Cox barn. The runner-up in that debut ended up coming back to win next time out. It was a maiden special weight. And that time of the year at Churchill, you see the big purse there associated with it as well. It was a mid-pack finish. It was okay, but I did pull a trainer stat here for Safi that I just wanted to kind of point to when we look at Silver Spur. Just looking at maidens first off the trainer switch the past 3 years, he's 24% from a sample size of 34, 56% in the money with $1.81 ROI. And something else just to remember here, horses coming off a layoff. This is one of Safi's go-to angles. He does really great with these types of horses.
Yeah, and you could see it with the statistics and a major player in there. And when you put in the Rainbow Six, you maybe even take a shot and single that horse. You just go too deep in here. I did get, and you did too, go with the number 6 horse in here, and that's Oculus, I think. Son of McLean's Music, returns to action with Lasix. Showed promise during his brief 2-race Frenchman campaign in which he finished third in both starts at the 6 furlong distance. Kent Sweezy's got this horse working okay for the return to action. So just, it's really a first-time starter almost in this spot.
Yeah, and he finished third in both of those races, one at Monmouth, one at Tampa. We haven't seen this one in quite some time, but you mentioned, I think the workouts are pretty good, especially 2 back, 48 and flat out of the gate at Palm Meadows. And then I like that they gave this horse a 5 furlong. We see a lot of 4s. Probably the last month or so, but to see that 5 furlong drill, it's a good time. The barns had a good meet so far. They've done really well with some of their actually first-time and second-time starters, so I like this one's chances.
Yeah, they had a good meet up in Monmouth, too,
Yep.
I believe. So they're doing good. Now we got our 3rd and 4th selections here, flip-flop. You went with the 2, Pipa de Linda, and I went with Tap at the Wire. What about Pipa de Linda?
When I looked at this race and I kind of looked the horses in here, I know the last 2 efforts, this horse has been kind of close to the pace, especially last time out was forwardly placed and tired in there. That was going a mile, and I know this horse has dirt experience, but I like this horse after that mile turf race, 2 of them in back-to-back, cutting back in distance. I mean, this horse wasn't getting beaten by much, 2 1/4 lengths, 3 1/4. So I think the cutback certainly helps this one today.
And the one Tap It to the Wire, Tap It to the Wire, as I mentioned, is now listed as a gelding. This one, another one from the Safi Joseph Jr. Juggernaut. He's the son of Tapiture, debuting with Lasix, steady work tab showing over this main track right here. JC Diaz always always interesting, I should say, inside post. So I think the race goes through the 2 horses that we have on top, Silver Spar, and that horse from Kent Sweezy that ran okay. With that said, we'll flip the page, go back to the Tapeta for race number 5. It's about 5.5 furlongs. These are claimers, 3 and up, non-winners of 2 in life. Had only one scratch in here of the number 3 horse. And we both went with the number 8, Emma Crack, who's the Chilean bred. He's wheeling back. He shook off some trouble at the start. He finished 3rd on the Tapeta at this level and distance. Amador Sanchez, Edgar Zayas in the saddle. And here, if you're putting your late pick 5 ticket together or, using this race in your Rainbow Six, I think you got to go wide. I mean, Emmy Crack on top of our ticket, I'm not 100% sold.
You can't be 100% sold when he's 0 for 10 on the year in terms of wins. I know he's been there in 4 of his starts hitting the board, but there's some reservations about him. I think the big thing was last time out, first time on the Tapeta, you already highlighted it. He did have trouble. It wasn't a beautiful trip by any means, and he finished 3rd in there. So I think second time out, Edgar Zayas staying aboard. I do think that's the right move. And I mentioned it earlier, and when I looked at the early pick 5, I used 4 horses here. I mean, it's a wide open race, but he certainly is a win contender in here.
No, that was a smart thing to do because I'm saying it's just so wide open. The one horse, the Gladiator, the other Chilean bred. I don't know how many times you're going to see the Chilean breds run together. I think these 2 have done it a couple of times. This one goes to the Gustavo Delgado barn after the claim. You look at its last race, was searching for racing room throughout in the stretch when finishing 4th behind, as I mentioned, fellow Chilean bred Emma Crack last time out. So maybe he reverses the previous outcome with a cleaner trip.
I think so. I mean, the only bad race I would say he had in his career was on debut, and we know that can go for horses. It can be a troubled trip to get around the racetrack. Since then, though, he's at the board in 3 of the 4 following starts. He missed it last time out, but you already alluded to it. He had trouble as well as that race. He was just behind Emma Crack. Emma Crack was a length and a quarter ahead. Now, first off the claim for Gustavo Delgado. Christian Torres, they're one of their go-to riders, 21% when they team up. A lot to like about him, too. Now he's going to face winners for the second time in his career.
And what about your Stewie? No, our Stewie that you have in 3rd.
This is one that I think when you look at those last couple efforts, the ceiling's kind of been 3rd. Can't get the job done. And this is only going to be that 3rd start off of that freshening. And last time out, the race was washed off and moved to the main track. He still was able to finish 3rd. The winner we keep on talking about, Kachu, was kind of the best in that occasion. I still think his run style should suit him well on the Tapeta, and his turf races suggest the surface should be fine.
Well, the horse, I think, is 12-1, and that is the 5, just like Mike, trying to Tapeta at the 12-5 level. After racing Whiting, finishing 4th, there was that compact field of 20 condition claimers going 6 furlongs on the dirt. But just Mike Maker, been going so well. He's going to add blinkers for the surface switch. Maybe this horse helps the Super or Tribe pay nicely.
I'm going to correct you. Wrong Mike. Mike Yates, one
Mike
of our
Yates.
favorites here.
Yeah.
Blinkers on today. That's a huge thing. And obviously, this horse broke the maiden. He had some time off. They came back here, put him in kind of a tough spot, isolate Palladio in there as the top 2. And he's had some trouble since then. They tried him sprinting on the turf last time, again off a year layoff. I think he needed one race, certainly off that long layoff. And now they're going to do an equipment change for him. So I'm curious to see on the tote board. I kind of looked over him, and now that you mentioned that, he might be a horse to use in the exotics.
Yeah, and then like you said, you went 4 deep. You could have, if you
Could have gone 5 now.
If you can get a single in, in a couple of those races, certainly you can go all in that race.
Right.
It's like you follow my old book that are the old Button for Fun and Profit, one of my best sellers in there. Always a joke I had. Not that good anymore. It used to be funny years ago. Race number 6, about a mile in the 16th on the Tapeta Claimers, fillies and mares 3 and up. Non-winners of 2 in life, $8,000. Not many scratches on the card. Starts our late pick 4. How'd you go?
Well, after the $9 beat yesterday, I certainly beefed up this ticket. $24 play. I'll use 2 horses in here. I used the 5 Raising the Glass and the 8 La Russia exiting that same race. Loved Raising the Glass last time out. 2-1 on the morning line today. Very different circumstances than last time out. Race 7, I'll use 2 runners. I know you like the 5 David's Rose. I also have some interest in the horse on the rail, the number 1 Elisa's Song, who's won her first 2 career starts so far. Race 8, I spread. I used the 1, the 4, and the 6. I thought there were key scratches in here. I had some interest in the 2 as well as the 3, but they're both out. And then to wrap things up, race 9. I think we both like the 6. You mentioned the 12. I also used the 10, but my top pick is the number 1, First Off the Claim for David Brady. He's had a lot of success with 2-year-olds in the past, and I thought the price might be right on that one. So as I mentioned, $24 in the late pick 4.
Yeah, that's the one that's in the Stronach 5 this afternoon. It's leg D of the Stronach 5, so don't forget to take a look at that when you get a chance. Maybe it always pays fantastically. Getting back to this race, we're going to go back and show the Raison de Glace and the number 4 La Russia in their last race. La Russia is the 4 horse here, was doing all the dirty work, was setting the pace, and then you see Raison de Glace, comes up and makes what I thought was going to be a winning move in this race, and it's tough to win, on the outside post. So they're doing through the stretch here. Now, the Russia, this is 2 starts back for La Russia, I believe. It ran on the Tapeta next time out. La Russia. And then this horse just comes up and gets him at the stretch. But I thought they both ran well. La Russia, you can see, just getting a little weak on the inside.
The thing about La Russia, and we kind of look at these horses in here and you kind of distinguish them. Raising the Glass stood out to me just because this horse had a freshening, ran pretty good 2 starts back, and only was beaten by several lengths. And to me, Raising the Glass kind of runs from wherever she's kind of pointed. So I give her kind of the elevated pick in here. I think these are the clear top 2 to use, but I thought her race last time out was pretty impressive. She looked home clear at one point. Personally, I was hoping that was the case, and I got beat by Uptown Queen.
In paying devil's advocate, La Russia, 25 starts with 1 win, 11 seconds and 3/3. So this daughter of Hampton Court gets to the crosses the finish line, but not in front all the time. But I think in the spot can run well.
I'm gonna argue this. I argued it last time. I know her record. It looks like she has second-itis, and she does. But I'll give her somewhat of an excuse when you go back to those races. A lot of those races were for 3-year-olds or 4 and up that had never won 2 or 3 starts lifetime, and because of that, I think she had to face some kind of monstrous 3-year-olds that kind of got to stay in those races. Last time out, I don't think it was an excuse. She was in the same sort of race. But the one thing I will say is, interesting move. They went to the front, and typically she's just off the pace. And here, not a ton of speed on paper. Maybe they'll try it again, but I think she would have had a better chance had she rated.
Well, you look at my ticket. I do have the horse
Yes,
in
you do.
second. It's not that I, threw the horse right out, but
I'm just defending her.
No. The number 2 Truly is debuting on the synthetic, the Tapeta today for Jorge Delgado. First start back from the layoff. The mare 3 for 5 in the money this year, albeit those were on the turf. Is eligible certainly to grab a share with her best effort in here.
We agree. I think she's sneaky. Obviously now second off the claim for her Delgado. Good numbers for the barn when they do this. Last time out though, pretty even performance. She needed to show more. Now they're going to switch around to the Tapeta. We know that should be a fine angle.
Well, let's go to race number 7 this afternoon. 5.5 furlong starter, optional claimer. Filly's 2-year-old starter for 16 or less, so the optional tag of 16. And if you were listening to the show here, this is where my single in the Rainbow Six is, David Rose, and I'll tell you why. This one drops, cuts back to 5.5 furlongs after following. She had that nice 12-5 maiden score, comes back and sets the pace, but fades in that race to finish 4th behind that Grade 2 stakes placed Diamond Wow in the rained-out 7 furlong, $75,000 Our Dear Peggy Stakes. Eddie Plesa Jr. reunites this daughter of Uncaptured with Edwin Gonzalez. He was aboard for the maiden win. I just think this horse classes up very nicely in this spot. I, too, have Alyssa's song. We got our exact flip-flop. I know that. So on your B ticket, would I use the one? Yes.
100%. I think you have to. And David's Rose, when you look at this filly, they debuted her at the maiden special weight rank. It didn't work well. They gave her some time off. Still kind of on the drop, but she faced some nice horses. I mean, in all of her 3 starts that it took her to break her maiden, the runner-up came back to win next time out. So I like seeing that from those races. You mentioned last time out, Deep Waters, Diamond Wow was hopefully going to race in the Breeders' Cup, but they've decided to not race her in that race. So something to note there. And that was going 7/8. I think the cutback helps her. There is some speed on paper in here, but when you start to look at some of her races, especially that 1-2 back, I mean, she's pretty fast. She may be a touch quicker than 1 or 2 others in here.
Well, as you mentioned, you have on top Alyssa's song, one of the horses you did lose on your late pick 4, is turning back to this distance, kept a record unblemished. She, followed that maiden win with another score against 25 Clem. So she's done nothing wrong.
Done nothing wrong. She got similar trips. I think seeing at the 12-5 maiden level, jump up to 25. That is a step up to face winners for the first time out. She did it fine. She won by a length and a quarter. I'm going to keep it going. And something I wanted to kind of hone in on here is a trainer stat for Juan Rodriguez. I mean, this is horses 1-2 in a row now, but I wanted to show the trainer stat for looking at horses that won last out the past year. Good numbers from the barn, from a limited size. I think it's a smaller operation. 3 for 15, 20% for wins, 47% in the money with a $2.81 ROI. And when Sammy rides for Juan Rodriguez, 24% at Gulfstream.
Yeah, and we both used the number 6, Renee's Dream Girls, hoping to get back to the winner's circle. Followed that maiden victory with a duel for the lead, 3rd behind aforementioned Alyssa's song. So certainly a horse you want to use on your tri-ticket. Going to race number 8, about 5 furlongs on the Tapita. Starter allowance, 3-year-olds and up, 12-5 or less. I lost my long shot and my second choice in here with the scratches of Midnight Punk and Discreet Tune. So I bumped up Henry's World, who's probably the one to beat in here. That's the wrong numbers up there, I believe. I maybe set them up wrong. I have the 6 on top, 641, so on that ticket there. So I guess I put an 8 by mistake or something like that. So this 8th race is, we'll start with Henry's World, and Romario will show that last race here, show the 8-pole home when a pace setter, Henry's World, gets caught by the one and only Harry's on the Loose. So I thought it was a good race by this horse.
It was a really good race. I know he took some money in the pools, but kind of looking at him, he was trying to extend that win streak for the connections, and he just gets denied. You can see Harry on the Loose, the gray here, just grinding, and there you go. I mean, it's a slim margin. It's a neck. Really game performance, and it seems to be Henry's World. When things go his way, he's on the front end, and usually he's able to prevail. But those fractions, 21-2, 43-3, set up for Harry's on the Loose.
Gilberto Zerpa has Edgar Zayas handling the surface switch this afternoon. I was getting cute with the horses that scratched in there. So this was actually 3rd on my ticket, but now looks good in that particular spot. The other horse that we both have in 2nd is the number 4, Granger County, who was competitive with similar on the dirt on turf before going to the sidelines for Ralph Nix. Edwin Gonzalez going to jump back aboard.
He had 2 back-to-back wins sprinting on the turf in the springtime. Now, you mentioned he tried the dirt last time out. It was okay. It was 3rd. It's not his preferred surface. That was against starter allowance competition. So he's only making his 2nd race since April. I think that's huge. And to see how he's raced on the turf, I think the Tapita should suit him better than the dirt did on June 19th.
If you remember that replay we showed, Romario was a closing 3rd behind Henry's Earl in the turf, 2 starts back. Now tries the Tapita again after the chase and weekend outing going. That was a $60,000 overnight handicap going 5.5 on the Tapita. Easiest spot with Miguel Vasquez in the saddle today.
It's easier, and I think last time out it was interesting because he was trying the Tapita for the first time. Typically he closes from the back of the pack and makes that late run. He was chasing the pace, and I think that hurt his chances. We kind of looked at the top 2 in there. The runner-up, Wind of Change, was kind of hyped up in that race a lot. it just wasn't the trip that I think he wanted to get. So Miguel Vasquez back in the iron, has been aboard him before. They've teamed up for some nice a win and some second place finishes. So I like those changes today.
We'll go to the 9th race, 5.5 furlongs, maiden claiming filly 2-year-olds, 12-5, scratch to 9. This is the leg D of the Stronach 5. We'll go quickly through it. I went with the 12 horse in here, La Boquina. Drakes from the outside, has her claiming tag sliced in half after stalking the pace, finishing third. That was her 6.5 furlong maiden sprint that produced a couple of next out winners. I don't like the outside post, but I thought the drop would help this horse this afternoon.
I hate the outside post for her, but I was going to say she ran a nice third. Del Rey Dolly, the winner. The runner-up came back to win next time out. And the big thing is slashing the claiming price. I thought it was good enough to maybe keep her there. They're going to slash her in the price circumstances. Miguel sticks with the horse. She's a top 2 contender for me. I could see her easily winning this, but the post was a little bit of something that was going to deter me from using her on top.
Well, tell me the horse I didn't use at all here, the one horse.
Pure Ambition, interestingly enough, ran really well on debut. It was 4-1 in that spot. Was second, but well defeated. The winner, drew clear by 7 lengths, was picked out of the next star. I mean, obviously they were impressed with the debut, runs back at that same level and distance, and didn't fire at all, which kind of outrun throughout that race. David Brady claimed her for 16, now in for 12.5 today. I just think there's room to improve, and I love seeing blinkers because last time out, just being so far back, I'd like to see this horse with some more speed under her belt.
Well, that's how we see the 9-race card. We're up against, we're going to turn it over to Pete, so we'll quickly go to our lightning round, and we have the Pegasus World Cup winner, Nix Go, entered in the Breeders' Cup Classic. So we got a big route, and there is the field, and Nix Go, certainly by, Brad Cox, the trainer, looks like a major player in that spot.
He does. Nix Go is one you have to use. You talked about one Brad Cox, essential quality. He's a horse you have to love as well. The way he wins may not be the prettiest of ways, but he's run really well. It's an interesting field. A lot of 3-year-olds in this field as well as some of the nice 4-year-olds.
Yeah, we're rooting for Nix Go, of course. And a great note here as far as us, we love this guy. Larry Comas will be the voice of the Triple Crown. We'll be joining TVG here all well, it looks pretty good up there during TVG for the championship meet here at Gulfstream. He'll do that work for them. Good to see Larry back in town.
Yeah, it's always good during the championship meet to have TVG providing coverage of our races and having someone on the live side of things. I always think that's great, and Larry is no stranger to Gulfstream Park.
No, he was the track announcer here for 10 years. The Stronach 5, we've been mentioning it throughout the afternoon. Let's quickly look at the all-star ticket. Naomi up at Laurel put first two races together. Of course, it's Santa Anita, Frank Miramati, and Matt Dinneman out in California. And yours truly will handle that 9th race here. Now, I used the 3, 9, and 12, $108. So we'll see how that plays out. Dollar wager, only a 12% takeout. And I just wanted to mention a code of honor, my favorite horses in here, won the 2019 Grade 2 Fountain of Youth. He's entered in the Grade 2 Fayette, at Keeneland on Saturday. But I read a story, if he runs well in there, there's a chance he might be in the Pegasus World Cup this year.
Be interesting to see if that's the case. He was fun to watch in 2019, had a stellar year. I know you're biased. You love this horse a lot. But a nice way to kind of close out the meet at Keeneland, having some spotlight on him in that race.
Well, good luck with all your selections today. Pete Aiello's chomping at the bit. He'll get to his scratches right now.